3 Lives 3 Worlds, 10 Miles of Peach Blossoms. By Tanki Gongzi. Translated by Hamster 428. Chapter 15. The sun is leaning to the west when I woke up from my long dream. It is now about the third or fourth hour. I feel like I've lived through another 70,000 years from that dream, and I have somehow unfairly aged a bit more. Yehua's no longer in the room. I sadly look up to the curtain and carefully roll myself from the bed down while trying to avoid the injury on my chest. Yanhua Cave is covered in a veil of fog. The blurry image of Moi Wan appears within the thick air. I change myself back into my human form and walk over to him step by step. I've worried excessively. Migu has arranged Moi Wan's body with care. Even his tangled hair is now brushed and tied back neatly. My own particular eyes can't pick out anything wrong. Only this place feels a little cold. I sit down next to him for a while. His pair of eyes that hasn't opened in 70,000 years, his straight tall nose, the faint smile on his mouth. However, that same handsome face is now frozen forever. I haven't a chance to see him smile in these 70,000 years. All I can remember now is the image of him standing among crimson peach blossoms in the back of Mount Kunlun. The cave is so very still. I feel cold after sitting for so long, so I spread my arms and hug him. The chill gets even chillier. I leave the cave to pick some wild flowers and place them next to him. That way there is finally some liveliness in this cave. After some time of sitting around, I then realize the flowers will be blooming in the next few days. I'll be able to weave some bamboo branches together to make a flower curtain for the cave entrance. Moi Wan will feel more comfortable with flower fragrance in here. I become happier at this thought. The sky is getting darker, so I hastily bow to him twice and descend the mountain after looking around the cave for one last time. I'm not sure myself who tended to my wound while I was unconscious. There are only 3 people, Yehua, Migu, and Bafang. No matter who it was, they wouldn't wash me since I'm a female. I was preoccupied with going to Yanhua Cave, but now that I am free, I do feel a little dirty. There's a small silver lake on the side of Fang'ai Mountain. It's certainly not Ling Bao Tiansan's Wangtian stream, but it should still be better than a normal bathtub. I at once change direction and go toward the lake once I made up the decision in my head. I take off my outer coat and form a protective barrier around my wound. The lake's water is actually melted snow accumulated year after year. The water is freezingly cold even though it is now the beginning of summer. My teeth are clattering together so much that I have splashed some water on me first before I can continue to dive under. When I get to deeper water, my undergarments all cling to my body uncomfortably. Within the clear blue water shines rosy silk and white fabrics. Pink and blue hues twinkle around so very prettily. I think to myself that there shouldn't be anyone strolling around the lake at this time, and wonder if I should just take off the underskirt or not. I still haven't decided when I hear a loud shout, "Bai Qian!" I startle at the sound of my full name being called. It's a familiar voice, but this is the first time he's called me by my full name. I have had to try so very hard to stand still in the middle of the lake. Now that I'm frightened, I falter and proceed to fall into the water. Instantly Yehua glides over the lake surface and catch me. With just an embrace, I'm totally enveloped within his large body. He hugs me so tightly that I nearly cough up blood from my injury. In his haste he failed to form a protective barrier and now he's also sopping wet. His long black hair clings to my face. I've never been this close to him. He holds me so tightly I can't see his expression at all. His heartbeats thrum rapidly by my ears. I only know at this point not taking off my underskirt was a wise non-action. I'm just about to praise myself when my lips are suddenly taken. Frightened, I thoughtlessly open my mouth and immediately his tongue invades inside. I stare at him wide-eyed, but being so closed, I can only see his own pair of midnight eyes. Even though we continue to stare at each other, he doesn't forget to use his mouth kung fu, biting and nibbling fiercely. My lips, my tongue, they all feel drowned, and there seems to be the taste of salty blood in my mouth. There's something lodged within my throat. Tears well up in my eyes as I try to think of where I have tasted this before. He softly nibbles my lip and dazedly says, "Chien Chien, close your eyes." His voice goes straight to my head and jolts me awake. I quickly shove him away. Immediately I lose my balance and wobble out of his grasp. He grabs me back and avoids my injury this time. Before I can say anything, he already lays his head on my shoulder and hoarsely says, "I thought you wanted to jump into the lake." I don't immediately know what to say, but I consider what he thought so very amusing, thus I laugh and say, "I only came here to wash myself." He hugs me tighter. His lips burning by my face, he says with heavy breathings, "I thought you were." A sentence with neither a beginning nor an end. I don't think standing here forever is a good idea, so I call out his name. He remains silent. I feel entirely embarrassed, but I try my best to change to a safer topic. "Weren't you busy with those reports in your study? How come you came out here?" His breathing finally stabilizes. With sadness, he says, "Migu brought you dinner but you weren't there. He notified me and I went looking for you." I pat his shoulder and say, "Oh, it's dinner time. Let's go back then." He says nothing more and continues to embrace me in the water. I don't have the slightest idea what's on his mind. According to those who are experienced, lovesick people usually aren't very sound. It's best that I don't bother him and let him continue to hug me. At length I sneeze again. My sneeze reminds Yehua that I'm still injured and shouldn't be in the cold water for too long. He quickly flies me back to the shore and helps me dry my clothes. That kiss in the lake only proves I'm still entirely naive. I only remember there was something in me that suddenly rose passionately without form or figure. I couldn't catch it even if I wanted to. In the blink of an eye, it was gone. Yehua walks ahead as I follow behind. The rush of wind and chirps of insects surround us on the way back. Because my mind is preoccupied, I slam right into Yehua, not realizing he has stopped. He moves over and causes my head to slip to the side. I cringe my nose and take over the lead. Inside the small pavilion on the bottom of Fenji Mountain is the unwanted smiling face of Jian. It's already June, but he holds a fan in his hand without spreading it open. He merely looks at us intently while wrapping his hand around Fourth Brother's shoulder. Fourth Brother flutters his eyes while chewing on a straw of grass. He lazily lifts his eyelids when he sees me. "Little Fifth, did you have some to drink? How come your cheeks are bright red?" I ignore him and have no intention of wanting to know why he said what he said. But next to me Yehua was quietly coughing a few times. Jian's dark eyes sweep around as he gently fan himself in a knowing way. Tonight will be a breezy moonlit night. Spring flowers are also blooming. It's a great opportunity for romancing. I awkwardly laugh and glance at Yehua. The corner of his mouth curls a little. His eyes twinkle behind the black hair. I'm sure Jian and fourth brother didn't come back to King Kaihu just to banter about the weather with me. Bafang definitely sent them a letter telling them how I was beaten half to death. They probably thought it a good opportunity to see my wretchedness, so they rushed back with zeal. I tell them, I'm sorry you gentlemen didn't get to see me that last time I was on the verge of dying. I'll have to disappointed you again, as my injury isn't nearly as bad this time. Jian breaks out laughing and hands me his fan. If we hadn't put in some effort, how could we have seen you in anger like this? Here, I had to ask the West Sea's eldest prince to paint on this fan for me. It's yours now. I happily take it, but still grunted a pretended humph. As we go back to the Fox Cave, Jian and fourth brother walk all the way in the front while Yehua and I follow behind. Yehua intentionally lowers his voice and sounds surprised. It's hard to believe you can get upset over a small joke like that. Master Jian sure has some talent up his sleeve. I chuckle and reply, it's got nothing to do with talent. We see each other all the time, so it's fine to get upset once in a while. If it was some other young brat, I wouldn't care in the first place. I wish you would care enough to get upset with me sometimes. I was about to yawn, but then I close my mouth. Migu is waiting for us outside the cave entrance. It's already past the hour of the dog, when everyone should already be in bed. I feel bad that he had to wait up for us. We haven't near the door when he comes before us and bows down to me. With a grey expression, he says, Demon King Lijing wants to see you. He's waited for a long time. Yehua knit his brow, what more does he want? Jian holds back fourth brother, who was about to take off, and laughs. They say you won't get to see the Buddha if you arrive too early. It seems our timing is great today, as we will get to see quite a scene. I enter the cave without stopping once. I only tell Migu one thing, tell him to leave. Migu trembles and quickly says, Lady, he's only waiting outside the entrance. He hasn't come in yet. I nod, then ignore him. Jian is sorely disappointed as he protests, you shouldn't prolong this anymore. Peace is not as effective as violence. Why don't we give him an ending tonight? Yehua coldly glares at him. I place my chin on my palm and ponder it over. At last I reply, he and I don't need to end things once more. What needed to end has already ended. Early next morning Yehua comes and knocks on my door to hurry me for our trip to heaven. I've lived for so long and has been to so many places, but I haven't ever gone to Zhukongtian. Thanks to Yehua, I'm somewhat excited at the chance to go this time. No matter if we go by foot or by cloud, there is only one path to King Kai's entrance. Yehua likes to have his daily walks, so I let him walk this morning too. The gate is where the mortal realm and the fairy land meet. On one side is cloudy fairy energy, while the other is filled with mortal uncertainties. Both entwines around each other to create a thick mist. Within the thick fog, I perceive a tall person wearing a long silver robe. His handsome face carries immeasurable reminiscence. Li Jing. He seems stunned when he sees me. Yin, I still thought you'll never see me again. I also stand there paralyzed, not believing that he'd still be waiting here. He waited for me for half a month on the foot of Mt. Kunlun because he was a leisure prince at the time. But things have changed and he's now a king of an entire race. I can't believe he still has this merry luxury. Yehua calmly stands beside me. With a glance, he says coolly, Master Jian was right. What needs to be ended should end early. This isn't something you can finish yourself. Both sides have to cut ties at the same time for it to end neatly. I smile and reply, should I learn this subject? You seem full of experience yourself. He stands numbly. For some reason his face starts to turn pale. I take a seat on one of the stone chairs outside the gate. Yehua shows himself to be considerate and says to me, I'll step out there to wait for you. In some short moments he is already gone. Li Jing steps 2 steps toward me and forces a smile on his face. I can be at ease now that I see you. Are your injuries very bad? I wave my hand and say, I'm sorry I've worried you. Such small injuries can't harm my strong body. He sighs in relief and says, then that's good, that's very good. Then he takes from his sleeve a small object and brings it to my face. I glance and saw a small pearl sparkling in emerald light. It's the sole pearl I couldn't borrow that year. I gently flap the fan in my hand and lift my head to him. What's your meaning of this? Yin, that year I thought wrong, and I ended up doing wrong too. The more I went on, the more wrong I was. Take this soul pearl and place it in Master Moiwan's mouth. You won't need to use your blood each month anymore. Thank you for your kind thought, but my teacher hasn't needed my blood for over 500 years. You should take your holy pearl back. He hoarsely says, Yin, can't we turn back? Dark clouds hang everywhere above us. His voice seems to have been caught within those clouds. I can't hear it too clearly. I take a short breath and spread my fan. I gently touch the painted peach blossoms on it and say, this conversation between the two of us won't happen again in the future. So let us be clear of everything now. 70,000 years ago, you were my first love. Of course I wasn't experienced, but what I felt was genuine. My mother has always worried I wouldn't be loved because of my strange personality. She thought it would be hard to marry me off without our family background. But you loved me without knowing my background or even my true identity. You even chased away your mistresses because of your feelings me. I was both happy and grateful. We white foxes mate for life. I actually treated you like my husband already. I was going to become your wife once I graduated from school if not for that Xiannu incident. You know our two kingdoms were in conflict at the time. But I didn't even think about the difficulty of convincing my parents to let us marry. All I thought about was the day we would become spouses. How stupid I was. Li Jing's lips quiver slightly. I continue to stroke the fan and casually say, everything that Xiannu could do to help you, Bai Qian of King Kaihu of course can also do. You keep saying I let go so easily, but you don't know how much pain there was behind that ease. Li Jing, not everyone can let his pain show on his face. Just because you don't see it, you shouldn't say it was a lesser pain. I've always dreamed I would one day become your wife. I never imagined it would turn into a joke like this. When time finally erased away my nightmare of you embracing Xiannu, another nightmare appeared. That was when you used 4 pairs of unicorns to bring Xian Nu into Dasiming Palace and held a celebration which lasted 9 days. How funny you should think I was at ease. Things had come to that point, yet I was still holding on to inappropriate feelings for you. When Xian Nu got kicked out, I was rottenly happy. I excused you and told myself you hadn't truly loved her. You won't ever know how I felt when I found out it was all part of your strategy. You don't know how much courage I had to muster to come and beg you for the soul pearl when my teacher passed away. And you can't begin to understand how disappointed I was with your response. You say you didn't give me the pearl because you were jealous of my teacher? Li Jing, that deep love of yours isn't an ounce of what teacher did for me. When I was about to die in Yanhua Cave, the image that appeared in front of me wasn't you. At that time, I realize I've finally been freed. Li Jing closes his eyes. When he opens them, he sobs, Yin, that's enough. I close my fan and sadly say, Li Jing, in the past 140,000 years you are the only man I've ever loved. But the tidings keep on moving and we can't turn back again. His body stiffens. At last crystal tears stream from his eyes. After a long while he solemnly say, I understood it too late, and you won't stay still to wait for me. I nod my head. Now I have nothing to do with the demon race anymore. I leave him one last comment, we're strangers from now on. There's no need to see one another again. When I walk out from the cloud, Yehua stands from nearby and says, how can you say those sweet words to pain me like that? I force myself to smile to him. When we arrive at the south gate of heaven, there isn't anyone guarding the place. There are only several tigers nodding away in sleep. I spin my fan and joke, whether great or shabby, our gate to Qingqiu is at least watched by Migu. But your 36 levels of heaven are only being guarded by these tigers. Yehua knits his brow, Taishang Lejun is lecturing today. They probably all went to see him. He then turns to me and smiles, I heard you also went into debates with Yuan Zheng when you went to the mortal realm. You should be knowledgeable, then. It's been many years since Lejun has met a rival. It must be lonely for him to be so peerless. Perhaps you can engage in some debate battles with him. I swallow my saliva and evasively chuckle, surely, you're exaggerating. Behind the south gate is a vast white color. Beyond it an entirely different scenery comes into view. Gold for floorings, jade for steps, auspicious light circling around. This can only be better if compared to the water palaces of the 4 seas. Luckily I was wise enough to wear my eye ribbon before going. My sickly eyes might be gone by now otherwise. At this time singing cranes fly over our head. I sigh emotionally and hold Yehua's hand to say, your family sure is rich. Yehua's expression turns pale as he says, not every building here is like this. The two of us start walking leisurely. I take the time to look around me. The brilliance of Zhejiangdian is completely opposite from Qingqiu's vast farmland. Even better is when we walk past some maids, they don't get frightened by my eye cover and only pay respect to Yehua. It makes me thoroughly happy. I heard that Yehua moved out on his own when he was 30,000 years old. Tianjun gave him this palace, named Saho Palace. It's a pretty name. I'm now standing in front of said Saho Palace and I feel somewhat surprised. I've never been to Zhejiangdian before, but I have a feeling Saho Palace didn't used to be so melancholic looking. I don't expect gold-gilded walls or jade shingles, but it should still be a little brighter, a little livelier. I'm still in deep thoughts when Yehua pulls me to the back door. He stands before the door and looks around a bit. Then he points and says, "Jump over." I don't understand, so I quickly ask, "Why?" He furrows his brows slightly and takes me by my waist, jumps over the wall and softly lands on the ground inside. I don't get it. Does everyone in heaven scale walls instead of using the main gate? Yehua sees my expression and embarrassedly says, "We'll only call attention to ourselves if we go through the main gate. They'll all come lining up to greet us. It's more convenient this way." A thought flashes in my head. I tap on his shoulder with my fan and say, "We left a little early today. You forgot to tell Jiajin to not bring today's documents to King Kaiyu and wasted him a trip, didn't you? If we were to enter the main gate, it might be troublesome if we run into him." Haha, at the mention of which, we got back late last night too. Have you taken care of all the reports piling from these past few days? His whole body stiffens. His face turns red as he quietly coughs. I've always worried that Yehua is too serious. He's only 50,000 years and he's already more proper than that other immortal Dong Hua. It makes me happy today to see him looking abashed like a young lad. Yehua stays at Zishan Palace, next to King Yin Palace. I'll only be resting on Zhukongtian for a few days. I know it's not right to expect Yehua to prepare a whole mansion for me alone. I'm about to tell him I'm okay with staying at King Yin Palace when he leads me to my own estate. I look up and see a sign with 4 words, Yilan Fang Hua. Yehua's eyes seem to be hiding something as he says, "This is your estate." I gently wave my fan as I stay in deep thoughts. I feel that the luxurious heaven palace is very different from earth. I was given my own house when I went down there to help Yuan Zheng because I was staying for a long time. But I'll only be staying for a few days here and I get an entire estate. One is a lord in heaven, one is a king on earth. They're both royalties, but how different they are. I sigh and push the door open. The red door slowly opens wide as it creaks. Coming into view is the crimson color of peach blossoms. Surprised, I stammer, "Did you bring me here so I can help you take care of the peach orchard?" Yehua's face freezes, the corner of his mouth twitches slightly. "Not many people know about the peach orchard. You shouldn't have a chance to go there. I planted this peach tree 200 years ago. It's now flowering for the first time." My heart suddenly pangs in pain for some unknown reason. I slowly enter the yard. Using my fan, I gently lift away the hanging branches in front of me. These blooming blossoms are quite pleasant. End of chapter 15.